Okay, so we've got a pretty interesting set of articles here all about, well, AI.
Yeah, a lot of buzz around it lately.
For sure. And these articles really dive into how this whole AI thing could, like, totally change how we use our phones and stuff.
Yeah, going way beyond just like the hype of it all.
Exactly. It's like a fundamental shift, right?
Yeah, like moving from, having an app for everything to something totally different.
Totally. And Gartner, they're the ones who make those big predictions about tech. They're saying mobile app usage could drop, like, what, 25% by 2027?
Yeah, 25% by 2027.
Huge, right? And they're pointing to AI assistants as the main reason.
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Right now, you want to do a bunch of different things online. You probably have a separate app for everything, right?
Oh, totally.
There's shopping, banking, travel, ordering food.
Yeah, my phone is, like, overflowing.
It's like app overload.
Seriously, I bet a lot of people listening right now are like, yep, that's me.
Exactly, and that's where AI assistants come in, right? So instead of juggling like a million different apps, you have this one hub that can handle it all. Like, you need to book a flight, you just ask your AI assistant, you need groceries.
Boom, done.
Assistant takes care of it.
So they're like these, like, super-powered personal assistants for our digital lives.
That's the idea, yeah. And Gartner actually named some of the big players here. Apple Intelligence, ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Google Gemini, Meta AI. These are going to be the big names.
Okay, so that makes sense. But if people start relying on these assistants for everything, what happens to all the individual apps? I mean, do they just, poof, disappear?
It's not necessarily about them disappearing. It's more like a consolidation. So instead of 10 different shopping apps, you have this one mega app, right?
Oh, interesting.
And your AI assistant searches within that mega app to find you the best deals.
So instead of going from app to app, we're going to be relying on our assistant to navigate these, like, bigger platforms.
Yeah, that's the shift.
That's a pretty big shift.
It is. And it kind of raises some questions about competition too, right? Because if a few AI assistants become like the dominant ones, they'll have a lot of power over which apps people even see.
That's a good point. And what about, like, smaller developers?
Yeah, exactly.
The ones who are making all these cool niche apps, what happens to them?
It's a big question mark.
It is.
And, for companies that like really rely on people using their apps, this is going to be a huge deal.
Especially for, like, marketing, right?
Oh, yeah, huge.
Because if people are using fewer apps, that means less data is being collected, and that data is like gold to marketers.
It is how they target everything.
Exactly.
The articles actually say that, the marketing execs, the CMOs, they need to start adapting, like now.
Yeah, like, get ahead of it.
Yeah, find new ways to reach people in this AI world.
Makes sense. And actually, the articles mention a Gartner survey from last year, the 2024 CMO spend survey, and it showed that almost a quarter of marketing budgets were going to search.
Wow, that's a lot.
So if AI assistants change how we search online, that's going to impact everything.
Yeah, it all ties together.
Yeah.
And it connects to another prediction from Gartner about something called Gen AI-powered search.
Gen AI-powered search. Okay, breakdown time. What is that?
Okay, so think about it. Right now, you type something into Google, right?
Yeah.
It uses algorithms to match your search with websites. But these algorithms are designed to understand, like, text and keywords, not the, like, meaning behind your, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. So what's different about this Gen AI thing?
So Gen AI, it stands for generative AI. It's a type of AI that can actually create new content like text, images, code.
Whoa.
So Gen AI-powered search engine wouldn't just be matching keywords. It would try to understand what you're actually looking for and then give you an answer that's like made just for you.
That sounds super futuristic.
It is, and Gartner predicts that by 2026, over a third of all web content will be made specifically for these AI-powered search engines.
Wow. So how does that change how we browse online? Like, if more content is being made for these AI search engines, what does that mean for, the average person?
It's all about personalization. So instead of seeing just a list of like random search results,
Yeah, right.
you get a response that's curated for you based on, your past searches, your location, even your mood.
That's pretty wild. It's kind of fascinating and a little bit creepy.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both.
It's like we're heading towards this world where our online experience is totally filtered through these AI assistants, like they're the gatekeepers.
Yeah, that's a really important point.
And it makes you wonder, like, how are these AI assistants going to be programmed? Who's going to control them? What kind of biases are going to be built in?
All important questions.
Yeah, and it seems like with all this talk about AI assistants and this Gen AI search, we're really talking about, like, a whole new way of finding and using information online.
Absolutely, yeah.
But what about the platforms we use to, like, connect with other people? So we talked about how we find information online, but what about, like, all the social media stuff? How does AI change that whole landscape?
Well, the articles kind of point to this idea of social media fatigue,
Yeah.
people getting tired of all the noise and the pressure to like present this perfect image online.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. It's so easy to get caught up in the endless scrolling and comparing yourself to everyone else.
Exactly. And that's where the articles see this potential shift towards what they call subscription-based channels.
Okay, like what?
Platforms like, Substack, Patreon, Discord, places where people actually pay for content and community.
So it's more like curated. You're choosing what you see and who you interact with.
Exactly. It's about moving away from that advertising model that like drives so much of social media.
Right, because those platforms are all about getting you to look at ads.
Exactly. This is about like a more intentional community-driven experience.
So less about broadcasting to, like, the whole world and more about connecting with people who, share your interests.
That's the idea.
Okay, but those platforms aren't new, right? Like, people have been using Substack and Patreon for a while.
True, but what Gartner is suggesting is that they could become even bigger.
And why is that?
Well, it goes back to all this AI stuff we've
Yeah.
been talking about, right?
Yeah.
As AI assistants get smarter, they could actually help us find and navigate these subscription-based channels.
So, like, instead of me endlessly scrolling through Twitter trying to find something interesting, my AI assistant could be like, hey, here's a cool Substack you might want to check out.
Exactly. It's like personalized recommendations, but for communities and content you actually care about.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And Gartner predicts that by 2028, marketers will be shifting almost a third of their paid social media budgets
Wow.
to support these subscription-based platforms.
So they're seeing the writing on the wall, huh?
It seems like they're realizing that people are, getting tired of the traditional social media experience.
Yeah, it's almost like we're moving towards a more fragmented internet, right?
Potentially, yeah. People kind of retreating into these smaller niche communities.
But, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Not at all. I mean, these smaller communities can foster a stronger sense of connection, more meaningful interactions.
Yeah, it's like finding that balance between, the broad reach of social media and the intimacy of something smaller.
Exactly. And it's about finding what works for you.
Yeah, but one thing that I keep thinking about with all this is, like, data privacy.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
We've talked about how these AI assistants are going to be collecting so much data about us, and now we're talking about these subscription platforms where people are paying for content. It just feels like everything we do online is being tracked and monetized.
It's a valid concern, and it's something we really need to be thinking about as all this tech evolves.
So, like, how do we navigate this? What can people do to protect their privacy?
Well, first and foremost, read the fine print.
Oh, yeah, those privacy policies.
Pay attention to the privacy policies of the apps and services you use. Understand what data they're collecting, how they're using it, and whether you have the option to, like, opt out of certain things.
Yeah, but those privacy policies are like 1,000,000 pages long and full of legal jargon. Who actually reads those?
It's true. They're not exactly user-friendly, and that's why it's also important to, like, support organizations that are fighting for data privacy and digital rights.
Okay, so, like, who are some of those organizations?
There are a lot of great groups out there, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the ACLU, Access. Now, they're all working to raise awareness about these issues and push for stronger regulations to protect consumers.
Okay, so it's like we need to be proactive, not just passively accepting whatever terms and conditions they throw at us.
Exactly. And remember, you always have the power to vote with your wallet, choose to support companies that actually prioritize data privacy and transparency.
That's a good point. It's empowering to remember that we do have some control over this stuff.
We do.
But I gotta say, this whole conversation has me feeling a little overwhelmed. Like, it's a lot to take in.
I get it. The pace of change is, it can be a lot.
It's like, whoa, what's the future gonna look like?
Yeah, but instead of getting caught up in fear or anxiety, try to approach it with like a sense of curiosity.
Okay, yeah.
This is a chance to learn and adapt to help shape how these technologies are developed and used.
So you're saying we shouldn't just be, like, passive consumers of tech, but active participants in shaping its future.
Exactly. Engage in conversations, read articles, listen to podcasts like this one.
That's us.
The more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to navigate these changes and make choices that, align with our values.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's like we're not powerless in all of this.
We're not.
And, at the end of the day, technology is a tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to decide how we want to use it.
And to make sure it serves humanity, not the other way around.
Well said. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from AI assistants to social media to data privacy. It's a lot.
It is. It's a complex landscape full of challenges and opportunities.
For sure.
And as we kind of wrap up this part of our discussion, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder.
A final thought, huh? Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me.
Well, we've been talking about how AI assistants could end up taking over so many of the things we do now through apps,
Yeah, like pretty much everything.
and how they might even shape our social lives and even filter the information we see online.
It's a lot of power, right? Like in one place.
It is a lot of power. So the question is, if AI becomes this like central force in our digital world, who controls it? Who
Yeah.
gets to make the decisions about these AI systems?
That's a big one. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about bias and all that, but then there's also the question of like access and ownership.
Exactly.
Will it be a few big companies calling the shots? Will governments get involved?
It's all up in the air right now. And these are questions we really need to be thinking about, like now, before it's too late, before these technologies are so embedded in our lives that we can't really change course.
Right, because once that genie's out of the bottle, it's out.
Exactly.
And it makes you think about all the potential consequences. I mean, good and bad, right? Like, imagine a world where AI is used to, like, personalize education, so every student gets a learning experience tailored just for them.
That's a powerful application.
Or AI-powered healthcare that can, like, diagnose diseases way earlier.
Those are some really exciting possibilities.
But then there's a flip side, right? What if AI is used to make existing inequalities even worse?
Yeah, that's the potential dark side.
Like, what if only rich people can afford these advanced AI systems?
Creating a whole new digital divide.
Or what if these systems are used to, like, manipulate people, nudging them to buy certain products or believe certain things without them even realizing it?
Those are all very real concerns.
They are.
And it really highlights the need for these conversations about the ethics of AI. We need to be thinking about the values that are built into these systems and making sure they align with like our vision for a fair and just society.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think it's this. The future of AI isn't set in stone, It's something we're creating right now through the choices we make every day, by staying informed, by talking about these issues, by demanding transparency from the companies and people developing these technologies. We can help make sure that AI is used to empower us, not control us.
Powerful stuff. And, that's a great note to end on. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI assistants and everything that comes with them.
It's been my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the future of tech.